All right, without any further ado, I would
Also
say
with
we
us,
can
and we'll
begin.
be
So,
beginning.
welcome very much, everyone, to our fireside chat, breaking into data science. So, the world renowned big data science influencer Ronald van Leeuwen and Anand Narayanan is joining us. They're joining us. Uh, and what you're going to learn today are the different career path options, degrees, online training, etc., and how to find the right entry-level job in data science and the right organization. Now, Ronald and Anand will eagerly be taking your questions during this live Q&A about data science and advice for a career in this growing industry. Now, Anand is the Chief Product Officer for Simplilearn, and Anand leads the product vision roadmap and the delivery at Simplilearn. He previously headed cloud development divisions at Rackspace and has also led product teams at Dell and National Instruments. So thank you very much for joining us on it. It's great to have you here. And also, hello to
Great
you,
to be here.
Ronald.
Hello, Dan.
Hello. Thank you,
Hello,
everyone.
Anand.
Hey, Ronald. Good to have you here.
Thank you
Um,
for
so
having
let me
me.
Yep. So Dan, thank you so much. Let's get started. I think we have a lot of folks here. Obviously, this is a very exciting topic to cover. And as Dan covered it, we're going to cover most of the topics that are relevant to someone who wants to break into data science, and really what makes this field exciting, what's happening in the space, and what you can do to really be part of that really exciting space. I want to just add a few more points about Ronald. Ronald is a blogger, author, consultant for large companies, and is a top 10 influencer in the space of data. So truly honored to have him here with me. And I'm also very proud to say that Ronald is a friend and a consultant for Simplilearn as well. He's our faculty, and we build our courses with his guidance. So Ronald, really, really happy to have you here. And did I cover your introduction well? Do you want to add a few more words?
Very well, and I'm proud that we have already for more than 3 years a relationship and working together. So it's a big honor and it's a pleasure to be in this webcast.
Wonderful. I also wanted to quickly say hello to the folks on Facebook Live and YouTube. I know you guys are there, and we're streaming on Facebook Live and YouTube as well. I will try my best, and Ron will as well, to answer as many questions as possible. But keep in mind, not everything is going to be possible to answer, so we'll do our best to cover as much as we can.
Just
And
a
now let's.
question, Anand. Can you see me? Because I cannot see myself on my screen. So just
I
to be
cannot
sure.
see you, unfortunately, but
Okay.
that's all right.
Okay.
I think we've got your words of wisdom, so I think we'll be good to go.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. So, let's just jump right in. We've got a lot of people here. It's excellent. So let's start with really the question of, data science in the last 2 to 3 years has really taken off. And if you look at any tech paper, you'll find that any news article talks about how data science and data engineering and machine learning is really changing the game everywhere. But let's start with something very simple, right? When you look at data science professionals today, what is that driving force that's driving this kind of change? And when companies or organizations look for top talent today, what are they looking for these leading businesses? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think in general they need, of course, for skilled professionals. And if I look to all the companies that I talk to, there's this need for the skilled professionals, educated professionals, and I think these are in general professionals that I can identify a business need, then create and deploy a data solution. That's the core. If I look to the data-driven and tech companies that I'm working with, they're often looking for specialized talent. I've traveled to China, I traveled to India, to the US, to Europe, and what I see more and more is that they're looking for specialist versus the generalist, and this is more for the advanced companies. If you look to the AI and data science talent that the company is really able to possess, that's very important because this determines their ability to be successfully and be successful and successful in managing the analytics in the future. So for companies, analytic skills is really important for being and staying competitive. So this is for companies so important that it defines their innovation in the future. So today, what I see as well is that the decision leading in facial recognition, they stopped hiring PhDs. So they say they have too much knowledge and it's too hard to change them, which
That's
makes
interesting.
very different view. So they started with bachelors and they start educating bachelors themselves. But this, to keep in mind, these are very advanced companies. They have a lot of experience. They have a large data science group. So they have a different view on this as well. So I think that's, if we look to the type of level, that's what you need to have in mind.
Got it. And I think, Ronald, what I'm hearing you say is while, yes, there are a lot of PhDs in the space, the minimum requirement really is a bachelor's degree. And I think from there you can really grow from that point, is kind
Yeah,
of how I'm
maybe
hearing you.
some addition. So if you have a bachelor degree,
Yeah,
it's maybe smart to look for companies that are very advanced already.
yeah,
They look for less experience, and you can step in. And I have some other examples like Elsevier. They just look for bachelors with almost any type of education, and they just say, "Hey, you can learn on the job over here." So
yeah.
you see that companies that are more advanced, they are more willing to look a little bit broader than just the PhD that you need.
Got it. Understood. And I think a good, interesting, follow-up question to that would be, let's say I'm one of the audience. I'm trying to get into data science. I'm trying to break into it. Let's say I have a bachelor's degree, I got into a company. I'm now a junior data scientist or a data analyst in the company, right? Now, in terms of career paths and the choices that you have in terms of doing business innovation and having a real strong career in this space, right? In your experience, and you consult with a lot of large enterprises, smaller companies as well, what do you see as sort of those roles that are opening up in this space?
And you mean then specifically to the typical roles that they are?
That's right.
So I think there are quite some careers.
Yep.
Go over it. I don't know if you want a short or a long answer, because there are quite some roles, and we can go in quite depth. But let's quickly go.
Yeah, let's do the quick version first, and maybe we go deeper. I think we'll go deeper on data science itself in a few minutes. We can go deeper on some specific roles a little later.
Okay, so first you have a BI developer. Maybe you can help me out if there are people that say, hey, this is something that we need to go in more depth. But this is focused on increasing the accuracy and the use for BI. That's one. We have a database administrator, and this career is focusing on the design and deployment and ongoing maintenance of the company database. I think these are two typical roles. We have the application architect, and this career focuses on the development and analysis of different software projects. Then we have the data architect, so not application architect, but the data architect, and they focus on developing complex databases for the business. We have the enterprise architect, and this career focusing on all the various business components within an enterprise architecture. And I think one role which we could go a little bit more in depth is the data scientist. So this career focusing on the analytics aspects of the data and how to apply it into a business problem and a solution. So what a data scientist does typically is perform statistical analysis and then performs the modeling. And they work both with structured and unstructured data from all different kinds of sources, whether it's real time, whether it's from internal data, external data, social data. So it's all depending, of course, on the type of challenges that you need to solve. And they help also to communicate to non-technical personnel to the business. And I met the CTO from Microsoft, Norman Judah, and he said the key focus that we have currently is on people that can explain in 5 minutes to the business what are you doing, why you're doing it, and why it should benefit. So this communication part is very important.
Understood.
Another role is the data engineer. And this career path focuses on turning the data into better analytics formats. And it's let's say collecting data from different data sources, looking at the data quality, the data storage, the data availability, and accessibility. Also very important role, I think, and that's also the company I'm working with, focusing a lot on data collection and data quality. Then we have the data analyst, and this helps basically business making better, more accurate decision based upon the data, and they collect the information, they interpreted it and analyze the data, and they present their insights most often in a report. Another, I think, challenging role, and is a role that's growing quite steeply and quickly, is the machine learning engineer. And he used big data tools and programming to create scalable data science models, and put these models into production. So they develop programs that can control robotics, can control machines, have all kinds of advanced data and analytics solutions. But they develop the algorithms that help machines and identify patterns and learn by itself. Then we have the statistician, and he collects and displays the numerical data, and he identifies the trends and creates usable information for it. That's basically who starts it. So if you look for your career path development, it happens that during your career you can develop all kinds of skills. I was telling about this you two. I was telling about Elsevier. They just start with within the organization, and then they can learn. They work within teams, and within the teams you can find what skills you like, what interest you like, what experience you like, what type of the business you like, and this way you can develop your career as well. So it's not, let's say, it's set in stone that you need to say, okay, this is my career path and this is what I'm going to do. It's also a matter of experiencing it, finding out what you like, and especially where you perform well.
Yep. So Ronald, is it fair to say, and maybe this is sort of maybe from a training perspective, what I see in the industry quite a lot, they're really, the way you were explaining it, there are sort of two different domains within this, these roles. And sticking to that same question, my sense is that you have what we consider data engineering kind of practices, where you're managing the data, getting it cleaned, having it ready for data models, and then you have the data scientists, data analysts, and machine learning scientists that are using that data to predict, create models, and create visualizations and strong recommendations out of those. Is that a fair way to maybe split these roles?
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and it's a specific point that many people talk about. So there's quite some confusion in the market about the distinction between the data engineer and the data scientist, and especially with terms. And the difference between data science and engineering, if you look to data science, it's much more focused on math and statistics during your education, and which leads to much stronger analytics and model building with machine learning and AI. And you need to understand it and understand the business, also the business aspects. So you can, on one hand, solve business problems, but also communicate them. This was what I'm referring to, what Norm Juda, from the CTO from Microsoft, said, hey, this is one of the most important skills for a data scientist, and especially working in it. Then you have the data engineer, who's more on the programming side, and usually with advanced skills in programming, and they can develop software solutions for big data, and to be able to select the best tools, technologies, and frameworks for each task. So the biggest distinction is stronger analytics focus with data science, and stronger programming focus with data engineering.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ronald. And I'll take this chance also to answer a few questions based on what you said for some of our viewers here. One of the questions really is, should I choose data science or machine learning or data engineering? I think, folks, what you heard from Ronald is, in some sense, you have really two separate domains within this data domain. You have the folks that are more engineering-like, where you're actually managing the data. You're making sure that the data platform is set right, and you're cleaning the data, providing it, and making it available. And the second is being more of a statistician, predictive analyst, being a machine learning person that's using the data to really bring those insights to the front. So it's not a question of choice. And I think, Ronald said it really well. I think at some point in time, you got to ask yourself, which one of those two domains is more exciting and aligns with what your skills are in terms of communication/engineering skills. So it is a choice. Now, is market demand, specifically high on one or the other? The answer is there are lots of jobs, and tens and thousands of jobs right now in both of these domains. So I can tell you that either choice is a pretty successful one. So this question was specifically asked on the forum, so I just wanted to make sure we answer that. So hopefully that gives some clarity as to data science, machine learning, data engineering. How do you think about that? That gives you a little bit of a sense of that. Ronald, but let's move forward. Let's talk about these companies that you work with. Typically we know the roles now. You told us all these are specific roles. There are roughly two types of domains that people work in. Let's get into skills. And actually, that's a set of questions that have come on the forum as well. So this will be pretty interesting for a lot of people. If I'm a data scientist, what is that standard definition, right? What do companies look for in terms of skills that a data scientist brings to the table? And I'm sure there are multivariate types of skills that they bring to the table, but I'd love for you to go through sort of the specifics here.
Yeah, so if we look to the skills, I think on one hand you have data scientists have analytic skills, logical thinking, critical thinking, mathematics, also project management. If you look more to the technical part, is they need to have understanding of neural networks and deep learning and natural language processing and machine learning. So this is, I think, quite important. And if we look more to technical skills, it's Python, it's SQL, it's R, which are the main technologies to work on, but also in Spark, Tableau, and SAS, or Java, and TensorFlow, of course, C++. But if you look, let's say the top three, what companies are looking for is Python, R, and SQL, and this is closely followed by Jupyter Notebooks, Unix Shell, and AWS and TensorFlow. But maybe next to this, maybe one addition, and again, it's coming back all the time, is you need to be able to communicate in a team. So you need to be able to do some storytelling, because data on itself doesn't tell a story. You need, as a data scientist, you need to communicate the data insights. You need to understand the business problem. You need to be able to communicate in business language. And also next to this, you need to have, of course, problem-solving abilities. You need to have team capabilities. And I think you need to be very curious, because there's always something new to discover. I think that's very important. And a foundation, if you want to be a good data scientist, that's something what companies are looking for.
Wonderful. And I think, Ronald, again, building on what you've just said, I think I want to answer a couple of questions that have come in from YouTube and from Facebook as well. If I'm getting started now, would I be seen as a brand new, fresher in data science, or would I be given the due, experience value that I bring to the table? And I think, one thing you said, and I'll pull a few things that you said to answer the question. Fundamentally, what we're seeing is that because the demand is so high, and this has exploded so quickly, there are actually very few, data scientists out there that cover the entire spectrum of what, Ronald just talked about. So here is an interesting, takeaway here. If you are able to cover these skills in depth and breadth, and are able to then present a very strong view of those specific skills, you do have a pretty strong background in data science, and you do have a real chance. So I just want to call that out. The skills are something that are very important, and I think Ronald walked us through those. And I think storytelling, Ronald, you said something very important here as well. Every data scientist is a great storyteller. Otherwise, you're not able to communicate the insights. So thank you for that. Really helpful. Now you talked about storytelling. It ties into something called, when you have so many people claiming they're data scientists, and everybody has done a certain degree, or they've taken their own training, on the job, or even a certification program for the matter, right? How do you stand out? How do you make yourself more marketable in the industry?
Yeah, I think a good question, because as more people call themselves data scientists, or more people become data scientists, you also need to stand out. So on one hand, it's important to focus on the most important and maybe even popular skills as well. So having demonstrated skills in data analysis and machine learning, develop your communication skills, make them very clear as well. And especially if you apply for a job, I think it's important to show that you can go one step further and improve your knowledge in deep learning, so you can stand out. And from a knowledge perspective, you need to have the basis for Python, R, or both even. So that's, let's say, in general, Tableau is also, I think, one of the skills that can be helpful, and how you can stand out.
Yeah, and Ronald, this is probably a very shameless plug from my side. You said Python, R, Tableau is something that is also getting proficiency or popularity. So the Simplilearn course does cover these concepts, and we do make sure that's covered. So I just want to put a very shameless plug there. But talking about online certification, which Simplilearn is one of them, right? there are companies that talk about very specific capabilities that are beneficial in actual practice, right? So what types of training and certifications are today valued by prospective employers? Are there specific areas that these certifications tend to matter more? And if so, what works?
Yeah, so there are multiple areas. Maybe go through it step by step. On one end, of course, we have big data. Um, Most probably you and the companies, they understand more or less the impact and the possibilities of big data. But it gives also the the companies the ability to disparate data from the large set into AI algorithms and better understand and predict the patterns to create to predict trends and to predict behavior. So it helps businesses use analytics to create better services, better solutions, better product, better experiences, and new business model. And that's what, in essence, I think they are looking for. They're looking for how can you help the business. So you can think about courses like big data, Hadoop or Spark, data mining, predictive model building. That's one part. Then we have BI and data science. So gaining additional professional certifications in BI or data science can really indicate to employers that you have the right skill set and that's needed to help them to perform application analysis or data modeling for centralized data warehousing, for example. So I'd suggest looking into certifications in BI reporting, BI development, and in data management. And for data science, there's numerous professional certifications that can help you with your ongoing education. And you can look for certifications in area probability, like probability and statistics, or visualization and machine learning. Then we have AI and machine learning. And on one hand, it's an ongoing education in this area. I think every area is an ongoing education. You can't stop because the technology developments are moving so fast that once you don't educate yourself, you're behind quite quickly.
Yep.
And for this, I suggest looking at professional certifications in predictive analytics, in deep learning, or natural language programming. Then we have enterprise cloud platform. I'm not sure if I need to go in depth over that. So I think that's quite also an area for let's say improvement, and yeah, that's I think the most important areas.
Wonderful. So now let's say you've done all these things, you've got those skills, you've got the training you require. So now, I'm one of the folks that is actually putting my resume out there, and I'm saying, look, I want to find the right job. What can I realistically expect, right? I've done my training, I know these skills. Can you give a sense of what the career looks like early on and how the progression might happen? What is expected of the first job?
Yeah, of course, it really depends which company you start working. But let me give some examples of career path. So generally speaking, after you've obtained your degree in data science, you might start with an internship, which can help you really moving forward. And this will give you the work and experience you need to be more attractive to be hired by the companies. And then you need to start putting out active job applications because you have some experience. You know what you're talking about. It's not only theory anymore. And this leads often to a more in-depth hands-on experience. So that's, I think, a typical next step that you can have. And you may find that to advance your career in this area and go more beyond your current position, you need to advance your degree as well. So at which point you can earn some professional certification in a specialized area or even go for a master degree. And this will open up more avenues for you professionally. If we look to entry-level jobs and for data scientists, they find that some internships or project management experience is really a plus. So some practical experience next to, let's say, the theoretical experience is really something that you should focus on. So just start, and if you cannot get an internship, just start online and show your experience, take some data sets, and start trying it out. Then if you look to internship, they can even lead often to a full-time job. So if you start as an internship, often companies see what you can do, if you fit within the culture, and move on. If you look to a master in data science, this can really be helpful. I think that that's quite clear because certification is still very important and where companies are looking for, and especially to distinguish yourself within in the market. Um, Even if you apply, I think, for jobs and you don't meet all the specific listed requirements, I think it's good to do this. On one hand, to gain experience with applying for a job and see how to respond, how to present yourself. But it's also companies over ask, or they cannot always find the exact right person. So it's better to have a good culture fit, a person who's really driven to make it happen. If you show yourself, I think that can be very helpful and just spread the word. So it's don't sit and wait, just try and error and learn and reflect each time that you had an interview or had a talk.
Wonderful. Very good pointers there, Ronald. So I think the big story here is build your skills gradually and apply for the role even if you feel like you don't have everything checked off, because demand is there, and if you have most of the skills, you can get the job. So that's a very exciting opportunity there. But let's say you're doing that and you want to really build your experience even further, right? Are there things a data scientist or a budding or someone who wants to be a data scientist can do to really build up that portfolio so that they really stand out in the crowd?
Yeah, I think we're discussing it. Basically, it's a red line through the whole discussion. Keep on educating yourself and keep on moving forward and extending your portfolio. So you can check out other data scientist job postings and find out what kind of job description until so you have a better idea of how to present your skills, but also see what kind of demand there is and how you should extend your portfolio. Next to that, data scientists can work on their own projects independent of their current company. I was telling this already. If you cannot get this internship, start creating your own project and show, let's say, build your expertise in a specific area and show it. And if you really love your job, you can come often to great performances as well. And if you search for a certain job, start looking where you can match, let's say, your passion with what you're developing yourself. So don't force yourself to work on a project or build your portfolio in an area that you're not truly enthusiastic about. I think internal drive and passion is still the main reason to be in this domain, to be in any domain basically, because in the end, if you're not truly passionate about it, I don't believe it's really gonna work. I believe in passion. That's the main driver of everything what you do, for any organization or basically everything what you do. Another thing is try finding a data set that approaches a problem that you're interested in, and you can go to sites like Kaggle, as I mentioned before, and see what you can do with it as well. So test it out and communicate your findings. So share your findings on groups, what you have done, show it to the world, because some people will pick it up and they are looking for specific, let's say, domain expertise, the specific experience, specific enthusiasm. And if you share what you do, somewhere it can be picked up and you can find your dream job that fits with all your experiences and, let's say, all your passions.
Thank you, Ronald. That makes a lot of sense. And one more sort of shameless plug from my side. You talked about hands-on projects. So something that Simplilearn believes very strongly is to have the ability for you to take a data science course and come out with industry-ready projects. So that is part of the curriculum that we provide as well. So that is there, and I completely agree with that view. We find that when recruiters come to us, they do look for actual hands-on projects that are being done. And the other side of that world, which is how the recruiters think of it, is absolutely resonating with what you just said. With that said, Ronald, I'm going to stop here. We're going to take a few questions that have come up, and some I think you could answer, some I think I could answer. Let me take some that I think questions are mainly for me, and Ronald, you're welcome to jump in as well. One of the questions is, Ronald talked about statistics, probability. They're pretty important as something that you would need to do if you want to be a pretty good data scientist. So if I were to go and get certified, do I really need to pre-read these things and then go get certified or take a degree or not? I'll answer that question really quick. Fundamentally, today, if you look at strong certification courses, and I'm talking about the ones that are really well thought through, they start with two things, and Ronald talked about those skills. One is a statistics primer, and they tell you exactly what you need to know before you can go into the more advanced topics. That's part one. And the second is something Ronald talked about as well, the basic level of programming in Python or R, right? So these are the two major areas that data scientists are using. Those are the tools that are in vogue today. So the answer is, if you're picking a good certification or a good program, it would be included in the course. So hopefully I've answered that question. The second thing I think is coming out in what country should I apply if I were to really want to have global data science role. I think maybe you missed Ronald's early part of the statements. Ronald was very clear in saying that there's a huge market in the US, and I personally know that the numbers in India are skyrocketing as well. So two places that definitely are growing very fast are India and US. Additionally, Ronald mentioned that China is another place that is starting to become pretty strong in their capability on this data science and machine learning. So I just want to reiterate what Ronald's already said.
Maybe in addition, if let's say you're looking for, let's say in China there's a huge demand, in India there's a huge demand, in the US there's a huge demand, but look for companies that fit with your passion and look for the best in class. Because if you work for the best in class, you can learn fast, and on the other hand, you can travel all over the world once you're good. And let's say data science is not really focused on a specific location, it's more on the projects. And I see companies spreading their data science resources and teams all over the world, as well as everybody can be in San Francisco or in Bangalore or in Shanghai, but the demand is big and they're most expensive. Well, so companies are also looking for other areas to develop other areas and to develop skills in other areas. So it's not like, oh, you have to be in a certain specific area to have the best job. And on the other hand, these areas where the most demand, they're also most expensive. So have in mind that if you need housing in San Francisco or something like this, it can be quite a challenge. I saw a nice documentary about it that just a bed costs $1,200 per month, and then you have a shared room. So it's also to keep something that you want to keep in mind.
Makes a lot of sense. We'll take a few more questions in the end, but before we get there, I think Ronald, as a summary conclusion, any major takeaways that you want to share with the group before we get into some more questions?
I think we had discussed already a couple of times. One is keep on educating yourself because it doesn't stop. The technology is moving forward so quickly that if you stop, the moment you stop educating yourself, basically you get behind. So I think that's very important. If we look another thought and another, let's say, conclusion, there's a demand and there's an increase in demand, and that's something that will not stop. So you don't have to be afraid that if you start into this field that you don't get a job. It's really depending on yourself. Then another part is this practical experience. You were mentioning it already in the course set from Simplilearn, but focus on practical experience. And if you can't get it, just start with it online and make yourself, let's say, make it a habit to do things next to your job and to develop yourself. And I think the last part is an important part is the communication skills. So if you really want to stand out, be able to summarize what you do, why you do, and what kind of results it will have, and be honest over there with the results, because it's better to say you won't get the right results or can't make it, or it's just, let's say, a trial and error process. Be able to communicate it. And the ones who can communicate it best, you don't need the best skills. You can, but then you are an expert in a certain area. Have the best communicating skills, and that's something where you really can stand out. So I think that's my few cents as a key takeaway.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ronald. We'll take three questions more that came here between Ronald and me. One question that's coming up is, in terms of resources that folks can take on to self-study and educate themselves. You talked, of course, about Kaggle, which is a great resource to look at these kind of data projects and data sets, if you may. And you talked about internships. Any other guidance in terms of resources that folks can go to get a little more self-study done?
Yeah, so on one end, as you mentioned, Kaggle is a great resource. What I use a lot is Data Science Central and KD Nuggets, not, let's say, to find the right content to practice yourself, but to find access to the right content. And what I do as well is I followed certain data scientists on Twitter, on Google News. So I have all kinds of news feeds to have very specific input from either other thought leaders in the domain and from different sites. So you get updates continuously, and yeah, depending what you need, you can pick from it.
Got it. Wonderful. And I will probably answer one other thematic question that seems to be coming up quite a bit, which is I'm a different role today. I'm either a technical manager or I'm an accountant, and I want to get into data science. And how do I quickly progress through my career? And maybe from my perspective, I'll quickly give a story there. I think Ronald has actually covered a lot of that topic as we went through. But I think the most important thing is, let's say you're a technical accountant or even a technical manager. The core skills that Ronald talked about are really, really important, right? So you have to have some sense of data science in terms of the statistics part, the programming part, being able to actually apply these in specific examples. And once your technical core competency is there, you then can talk about, I was a manager before, I managed a team, I managed an organization, and you can very quickly move through that organization and ranks, if you may. So this is not that different from moving laterally and then growing within that role. But that's how you should think about it. And Ronald also talked about other places where you could begin if you're absolutely starting at the beginning. It is to take online certifications or even a bachelor's in data science potentially to get that credential on your resume. And Ronald talked about internships, which is a very good way, which you might do actually separately from your main job. You might take on little projects on the side where you are basically building up your resume with specific projects that make you a lot more credible in the market, right? So I just wanted to cover a lot of these questions that are coming up that I believe Ronald has answered, and just make it really. Yeah, please go ahead.
So yeah, if you look, let's say, if you come from another domain, you have a couple of strengths. You have domain knowledge, and probably you have more communication skills than in what a traditional data scientist has from his education. So look at your strengths and complement your weaknesses. And your weaknesses you can complement by drive, by passion, and doing the online courses. And then, as long as you're passionate and you put your time in it, you can learn it. It's not magic. So I think even if you come from a different perspective, and then referring to data scientists that I interviewed at Elsevier, most of them come from a different background, either from law or social science, or all different kinds of backgrounds where they basically are not so much concerned about what your background is. They're concerned about your passion, about your skills, about your drive, about your curiosity. That's what really matters to be successful in this domain. So it's not only about technical knowledge and about statistician.
Got it, Ronald. One question that seems to be coming to me quite a bit, and I promise this is not a marketing plug from my side, but there are a lot of questions here. The question that's being asked is, how is Simplilearn different? So I'll answer the question. Secondly, in terms of job guarantees, JobAssist, what does that do? And I'll quickly answer that question. So one thing that Simplilearn does a little different is we don't believe that plain video-based learning is actually possible. Now, we've got so many folks here, 100 plus people here watching us, hundreds of people watching this. And the reason you're here, you're getting a live feed, you're answering questions that you have, hopefully to the best of our abilities, right? You just don't get that in a video, right? So one thing Simplilearn strongly believes in is that live interaction with experts like Ronald is absolutely necessary for you to actually progress in your career. So we follow a sort of, at a very high level, blended approach, which is watch videos, interact with experts, do projects. So that's one thing that sets us apart. A little different from what you would get out of a YouTube or other mediums that do pure video-based approaches. On job guarantees or JobAssist, we never do a job guarantee, and I'll just be very honest about that because it does depend on what your capabilities are in terms of storytelling, marketing yourself, and your own abilities, right? But what we can do absolutely is to get you to that point where the skills Ronald talked about are covered 100%, and you have projects. There are 30 plus projects in our course, by the way, and then 4 capstones that you have to complete. So pretty rigorous in that sense. So you will have a portfolio that you can come out with. And JobAssist really gets you the career events, the resume, they'll help you build your resume, and they will also take you to career fairs so that you can actually get these interviews. So that is pretty successful, but can we give a job guarantee? Absolutely not. So I just want to be very candid there because that'll be a promise that nobody can make today, right? The other question that keeps coming up quite a bit, and I'll just repeat that a little bit, data science, should I also learn machine learning? So maybe, Ronald, this is a question for you possibly. I'm planning to become a data scientist. Should machine learning be part of my curriculum? Should I learn that? What are your thoughts? I think that's a pretty straightforward answer there.
Yeah, I think it really depends which direction you want to go. So we went through all the different, let's say, roles that you have. If you want to become a data scientist, it's good to put some time and understanding in algorithm development. If you choose another path, then it's the question: do you need it? But in general, um, general knowledge is very important because you need to understand what capabilities are, what is possible, what's not possible, because you need to decide all the time: do you spend time in it, and is there a chance to success? Can you judge the data quality? Is there enough data? Can you build the training model or not? So general knowledge for sure. In-depth knowledge really depends on your role.
Thank you, Ronald. All right. With that said, I think we've covered, I would say, 80 to 90% of all the questions that came in. If you asked a question and we didn't answer it, my sincere apologies. We did have a lot of questions coming, so we tried our best to thematically take some questions and answer them well. Ronald, a huge thank you for your insights and wisdom today. I'm sure there was a lot of value that came from this conversation. Um,
Pleasure.
Dan, I'm handing it back to you at this point in time.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ronald, and thank you again, Anand. And I just want to say that for those of you who registered you through RevX, you can keep an eye out for a follow-up email in about a week or so with a written wrap-up of the webinar and also the video and more. So if you have any further questions that didn't get addressed during today's presentation, well, just reply to the webinar confirmation email, or you can tweet us at Simplilearn, and we'll get back to you. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and good luck in your data science careers. And thanks again, Ronald and Anand. Bye-bye, everyone.